my English commentary for The Taming of the Shrew. In this video, I'll be analyzing a passage from Taming of the Shrew by William Shakespeare. This passage is being said by one of the main characters called Katharina, from Act 4, Scene 3, lines 2 to 16. In this oral, I'll be looking at how Shakespeare shows themes such as the role of women and relationships between husband and wife. Also, how Katharina's husband, Petruchio, is attempting to tame her. This is in reference to the title of the play, Taming of the Shrew, meaning the Shrew's Katharina. I'll be analyzing the repetition of words that suggest certain things about a character. Also, how that a narrative voice creates problems that shows the problems of the character. The structure and how Shakespeare creates effects that create an atmosphere. In the first line of the passage, Katharina talks of how the more that is done to her, Petruchio's anger is more evident than before. Katharina says, "The more my wrong, the more his spite appears." Shakespeare wrote this to show the methods Petruchio is using on Katharina in his attempt to tame her, by scaring her into obeying him. So essentially, the harsher the cruelty, the more intimate he is with Katharina, but a harsh treatment instead of love. In this line, we see the treatment of women with certain men during this period of time, who were supposed to let men have the power and sit aside and be obedient, as if they were animals. In the next line, Katharina asks Grumio, why did he marry me? Was it only to starve me? She says in line 3, what did he marry me, to famish me? Shakespeare wrote this line, making it seem as though Katharina is saying this line to the audience, almost if she is asking the question, even maybe looking for the answer to her problem, even though the question was directed towards Grumio. In lines 3 to 4, she talks of how beggars who would go to her father's house would be given immediate help. She says, beggars that come unto my father's door, upon entreaty ever present alms, if not, elsewhere they meet with charity. She is saying that her father, being very generous, would help beggars, and they would be able to get help elsewhere if not there. Shakespeare had Katharina say this to give it a sense of how much Katharina is now envying their luck compared to her treatment from Petruchio. In lines 6 to 7, Katharina talks of how she has never known how to beg, and that she never knew that she would ever have to. She says, but I never knew how to entreat, nor never needed that I should entreat. Shakespeare wrote this to show how privileged Katharina was before, and having been privileged, she never had to beg, and is shocked that she might have to for such a necessity that was a constant supply to her, and is now something rare to her. Shakespeare repeats the word entreat. This shows that Shakespeare wanted to show that Katharina will never know how to beg, and it shows that it will never end. The atmosphere of the passage starts getting a little bit more twisted, with her having to change her lifestyle and having such a violent husband. In the next line, Katharina talks of how she is hungry for food and is weak for lack of sleep. This is shown in this quote, I'm starved for meat, giddy for lack of sleep. Katharina is now getting weakened by Petruchio, by him depriving her of food, in a way, brainwashing her, essentially taming her. The themes that Shakespeare has in the play start to have an effect on Katharina, such as treatment of women. We see her treated poorly and inhumane. In the next few lines, we see the treatment to Katharina, as she is never given any sleep at Petruchio, and he always wants to pick a fight with her. She also says that what annoys her the most about Petruchio is that he also says that he does it because he loves her. These quotes are mentioned in lines 10 to 12. With oath kept walking, and with brawling fed, and that which spites me more than all these wants, he does it under the name of perfect love. Shakespeare had Katharina say this to create an effect that you should sympathize her, even though she is quite rude and shrewish, because of the way she is being treated. We get to see Petruchio use his alternate personality to abuse Katharina. At picking fights with her, he is overpowering her and lowering her self-proclaimed power. He is subverting her. One of the methods that Petruchio uses, Shakespeare portrays it extremely well. It shows the twisted side of Petruchio, who tells Katerina that he is manipulating and brainwashing her because he loves her. He says this by using words to play with her mind, to make her think that what he does is because he cares for her and he loves her, so that she would do anything for him. Shakespeare used the word perfect, which is monosyllabic, to describe the irony of the relationship, which is the complete opposite of perfect. In the next line, Katerina talks of how Petruchio does what he does to her, as if eating, food, and sleeping would have her catch an illness of some sort or even sudden death. She is quoted as who should say, if I should sleep or eat, to a deadly sickness or else present death. Shakespeare had Katerina to say this to show that she is unsure whether he is sane or not, having thought these things, for thinking these things. She says it as if she is quite surprised of the oddness of his actions. Shakespeare put this in the right part of the passage because we see all the treatment Katerina endures and her complaining of it. Yet she still questions her motives and his saneness. The themes of relationships between husband and wife are seen as the husband having all the power in the relationship and over their wife. In the last two lines, Katerina tells Grumio to get her something to eat and that she doesn't care what it is, only if it's food. She is quoted, I prithee go and get me some repast. I care not what, so it be wholesome food. Shakespeare is now showing Katerina at her breaking point. Before at the beginning of the play, Shakespeare portrays Katerina as a strong-minded character that made her own decisions and controlled her own life. And now she is shown as a weak character, from being thrown down mentally and physically by Petruchio. She begs for food, which is something she would have never done because she was too proud. But now, Shakespeare used the words, I care not what, because having been pushed to the breaking point, that she doesn't care anymore if she has to beg for food, only if her only goal is to get food and not to starve. Overall, this passage has quite a depressing mood to it, having to see a powerful, strong character crumble, but Shakespeare showed it really well. Thank you for listening.